Who is that one person who just gets under your skin? You know the one? Maybe it's a celebrity, a coworker, or even a family member. They walk into a room, or their post pops up on your feed, and you feel instant irritation. You think they are so arrogant, or they are so fake, or they are just too much. You feel justified in your judgment. You think you are seeing them clearly. But what if I told you that you aren't seeing them at all? What if I told you that when you look at them, you are actually looking at a reflection of yourself? Welcome back to our series on shadow work. I'm Chris, and today we are discussing the mirror effect, how the things you hate in others are actually clues to what's hidden inside you. In episode 1, we talked about the shadow, that invisible bag where you stuffed everything about yourself that wasn't acceptable growing up. I asked you to keep a trigger log for 3 days. If you did that exercise, you probably noticed a pattern in the things that upset you. Today, we're going to explain why those patterns exist. It all comes down to a psychological defense mechanism called projection. The Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung famously said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead to an understanding of ourselves." Here is the uncomfortable truth. The human mind cannot tolerate looking directly at its own repressed darkness. It's too painful. So, what does the mind do? It takes those repressed traits out of your shadow bag and projects them onto other people. Think of yourself as a movie projector. The film inside the machine is your shadow. You think you are looking through a window at the world, but most of the time, you are just looking into a mirror. So, how do you know when you are genuinely observing someone else's bad behavior versus when you are projecting your shadow onto them? The key is the emotional charge. If someone is rude to a waiter and you calmly think, "Wow, that was rude," that's just observation. But if someone is rude to a waiter and you feel a surge of righteous indignation and your heart races and you complain about it for 3 days, that is a shadow trigger. The intensity of your reaction is proportional to the depth of your repression. Let's look at a common example. Let's say you absolutely hate people who are arrogant or chauffeurs. You can't stand them. Why does that trigger you so much? Shadow work suggests that perhaps, growing up, you were taught that it was dangerous to be proud of yourself. You were told to be humble, to stay small. So, you took your natural desire to be seen, your natural pride, and you stuffed it into the shadow bag. Now, when you see someone else living loudly and proudly, your shadow gets triggered. It says, "Hey, we aren't allowed to do that." Your judgment of them is actually envy of their freedom to be something you have repressed in yourself. But here is the twist. This doesn't just work for negative things. It works for positive things, too. This is called the golden shadow. Who do you absolutely idolize? Who are you jealous of because they are so creative, or so confident, or so disciplined. You admire them so intensely because they are holding a mirror up to a potential that you possess, but are too afraid to own. You put them on a pedestal so you don't have to do the hard work of developing that trait in yourself. If you deeply admire a writer, it's because there is a writer in your shadow begging to be let out. This is tough medicine to swallow. It means that the victim narrative has to end. It means taking radical responsibility for your emotional reactions. When you understand the mirror effect, the world shifts. The annoying coworker isn't just an annoyance anymore. They are your teacher. The angry neighbor is your guru. They are showing you exactly where your work is. Instead of pointing a finger at them and saying, "You are the problem," shadow work requires you to bend that finger back toward yourself and ask, "Where does this live in me?" So, here is your practice for this episode. We're going to use that trigger log you started. I want you to pick the strongest trigger from your list, the person who upset you the most. Write down the judgment you made about them. For example, Stacy is so selfish. Now, I want you to do the shadow translation. Cross out Stacy's name and write I. Change Stacy is so selfish to where am I selfish? Or where do I wish I could be more selfish? Don't let your ego wiggle out of it. Sit with the discomfort of that question. The mirrors are everywhere once you start looking. Stop trying to break the mirrors because you don't like the reflection. In the next episode, we are going to dive deeper into that golden shadow I mentioned and learn how to reclaim your repressed talents and confidence. Make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss episode 3.